has left us a big gap hole in our hearts.
A family left devastated.
It breaks our heart to know that we lost my brother.
They're called to the mayor and for justice after their loved one is murdered while working in Canton. Plus, after hearing the heartbreaking news, a local store owner shares how she fought off an armed gunman.
He turned around, started to come at me, and I shot him.
A murder victim's father outraged at the Safe Streets program.
I believe that our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
The questions his son's case is raising about the organization. A report claims city schools overpaid by more than $500,000 to transport your kids to school. We question how it went unnoticed for so long.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
The Fox 45 News is hearing from two families mourning the loss of loved ones to violence.
One of them is searching for answers after a murder more than 3 years ago. The case raising questions about the Safe Streets program.
The other, the family of 23-year-old Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez. He was shot during an armed robbery inside of a cell phone store in Canton over the weekend.
A kind soul, a kind-hearted person, 23-year-old brother, son, friend, co-worker.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Our team of reporters has both families' powerful stories.
Fox 45's Keith Daniels spoke with the family of the man fatally wounded in Canton as they get ready to lay their son and brother to rest. Keith?
Well, Mary, his name is Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez. His family spent today making funeral arrangements. A difficult day, they say, but tonight they're speaking out.
Oh, yeah.
In a living room in South Baltimore, a family overwhelmed with grief, but wanting to talk publicly about what happened to their loved one. 23-year-old Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez shot and killed while working inside the T-Mobile store in Canton last Sunday.
It breaks our heart to know that we lost my brother to two criminals run wild in this city.
Fabian's mother and father unable to speak English, but wanting to be heard.
Estoy muerta en vida con lo que le pasó a mi hijo.
Me puedo sentir si estoy perdiendo a mi hijo.
Both parents saying they are alive but dead inside with the loss of their son, Fabian.
Nobody wants to hear their son at work doing an honest job being shot over people trying to steal phones, money, or whatever they're trying to do.
Police say the shooting happened after two men entered the building, announced a robbery, then one of them shot Fabian, then both suspects ran away, still on the loose. The deadly incident happened in City Councilman Zeke Cohen's district.
This was a heartless, cold-blooded murder.
Fabian's family members calling on city leaders, including Cohen and the mayor, to do something to get the city's crime crisis under control.
We want justice for my brother. That we want Brandon Scott to fulfill, to protect this city, run this city from crime.
I'm not going to make this about the mayor. To me, this is about the young man who lost his life just doing his job. For me, I am committing to doing everything within my power to both hold the police department accountable, to bring the perpetrators to justice.
Justice, they say, for Fabian.
He wanted peace. He was a peace man, so I know he wanted peace. No violence on his heart at all.
Well, Councilman Cohen met with the family. We're told that one of his staff members was a friend of Fabian's. Meantime, if you have any information about this case, you're urged to call Metro Crime Stoppers. Remember, you can remain anonymous and could be eligible for a reward. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. The murder of Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez is striking a chord with the Baltimore City business owner. She says in 6 months she was robbed at gunpoint twice. She tells Fox 45 News the tragedy of Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez inspired her to share her story.
I'm sad for him. I'm sad for his family. The PTSD that it's bringing back to me.
Well, coming up at 10:30, her message to city leaders in a story you'll only see on Fox 45.
Well, turning now to a new debate at City Hall over Councilman Yitzi Schleifer's effort to better track how tax dollars are being spent. His bill calls for more transparency and accountability in the grant awarding process. Right now, once money is given to nonprofits, it's difficult to see where it goes.
We've seen just in the past year, hundreds of millions of dollars going out the door through the ARPA funding and other funding, and it's important to know where that money is going, what those organizations are doing, and this bill is going to help improve that. This will hopefully answer a lot of questions that people have as to where the money is going and are we getting a good return on those investments.
Well, it's possible this bill could shed light on how the Safe Streets program spends its money. Fox 45 News has been investigating that issue for more than a year. Taxpayer watchdog David Williams says transparency is key.
People want this program to work. They want the streets to be safer, but they just don't know where the money is going. A lot of money is being spent and a lot of lives are at risk. Taxpayers and the citizens want to know that the money that's being spent is being spent wisely.
We know City Council President Nick Mosby is co-sponsoring the bill, along with Council members Zeke Cohen and Danielle McCrae. Mark Conway and Antonio Glover voiced support for it. We sent questions to other members asking where they stand, but we have not yet heard back. Fox 45 News then pressed Mayor Scott about the plan yesterday, but he didn't really take a stance.
I'm always someone that talks about transparency, but when you think about our grants, right, and the grants that the city gets, I don't think that anybody's gonna argue that, especially when we get them from the federal and the state government that has a lot of requirements and that information is out there for the public to see. We're always going to be pushing that out there. We'll see and talk with the council member about the piece of legislation as it goes through the process.
The legislation has been sent to the Rules and Legislative Oversight Committee for further debate. It is not clear when a hearing will be scheduled. Well, we want to hear from you. Do you think your council members should support the transparency bill? So far, 98% of voters say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
When it comes to the Safe Streets program, the case of a man killed more than 3 years ago is raising more questions about how it operates.
After the murder of my father, I met somebody who I'm deeply connected to, who had a relationship with Safe Streets. And even from their experience, I can say that I don't know how safe it is.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost spoke with the family searching for answers. She has a closer look at new questions about the Safe Streets program.
Damon Scroggins.
He was a challenging little young man at first.
Was a man with a past.
Did some time in prison.
Some gun and drug charges stacked up on his record, but his father, Charles Goods, and daughter Paige Scroggins,
my father was the best,
say Damon was a man looking to turn his life around.
He had shared with me probably about a couple weeks before he was murdered that he was looking to be hired by Safe Street.
Mm-hmm.
Did he say why he wanted to get involved?
Well, he was looking for employment.
On September 9th, 2019, Scroggins was shot and killed inside a home on East Lafayette Avenue, while his girlfriend, who was a Safe Streets employee, was upstairs.
Demon had called her and said that he had just finished fighting her co-worker and he was on his way home. So he rode home on a bike.
According to court records, Ronald Brady Jr. was charged with Damon's murder, going to trial once in 2022, ending in a hung jury. Brady went to trial again this year, where he was found not guilty in March. Fox 45 News obtaining records showing Brady was hired by the Baltimore Community Mediation Center to serve as the site director of the Woodbourne-McCabe Safe Streets location on June 25, 2019. Just over a week after Scroggins was killed, Brady was fired.
We've been investigating the organization
for years. We still don't have that information. Fox 45 News has been trying to get more information about who the Safe Streets workers are.
The city of Baltimore redacting the names of all of the employees.
The city shielding that information along with other details about the operations of the program. After threatening to sue, Baltimore City finally handing over contracts with the nonprofits operating the Safe Streets sites. The hundreds of pages include the Woodbourne-McCabe site contract, requiring the nonprofit to pay for criminal background checks of all employees, contractors, and volunteers. And with Brady's record, including second-degree murder, assault, drug and gun convictions, the contract prompted us to send Monzi a few questions, including, what is the city's screening process or policies when it comes to hiring Safe Streets employees? Is there a threshold of violence or certain crimes that prohibit people from being hired? Monzi responding, saying the agency provides some oversight to the groups who then run the Safe Streets sites. Jackson's office also often not answering some questions about how Safe Streets workers spend their days on the clock. Combing through the court records of Brady's murder trial, Fox 45 News finding evidence the Safe Streets workers were not meeting at their locations. Scroggins' girlfriend, who worked at the Woodbourne-McCabe site too, was interviewed by police in January of 2020. According to the transcript, she says the Safe Streets employees would meet at places like Applebee's or McDonald's, and she was told how to clock in on my phone without actually having to go to work. Not being at the location lines up with months of investigating. Going to Safe Street sites, only to be met with mostly silence. The city maintains Safe Streets is effective, pointing to this Johns Hopkins report outlining some measures of success. But for this family,
has your view of the Safe Streets program changed throughout this?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Yes. My belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
There are people with ill will involved. There are people who are operating under the disguise that they are trying to reform in some way. And I'm so sorry to the people who are involved with good intentions, because you're involved with a program that has no intention on doing what it says that it's trying to do.
The program designed to turn the streets of Baltimore into a safe space is forever tainted to them. And they say the program needs a lot of work before success can be seen.
They need to screen these guys. They need to screen them for their contacts, what type of contacts they have now. You know, are they still dealing with the same people that they were dealing with before?
Scrap it and start it over with a new layout. It takes more than a Band-Aid to really address an issue.
Scrapping the program isn't likely. Last month, Mayor Brandon Scott and Director Jackson both announced an additional $5 million investment will be going to the Safe Streets program. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Now, a spokesperson for Monzi also issued a statement telling Fox 45 News in part, our frontline workers have a deep enough love for the people of Baltimore that they risk their lives to mediate conflicts and promote peace. This work will not stop, and Monzi, in partnership with our site administrators, will continue to ensure every Safe Street site has strong buy-in, understanding, and integrity in and around communities they serve.
Showers from today may be diminishing on the HD radar right now, but there's more where that came from. Take a look at all of the rain that's out to our west. Looks like that potentially could be ours as we head into tomorrow. Tonight, clouds, cool, temperatures in the 40s. I'll let you know when the rain returns and how long it lasts in my Weather Authority forecast.
Next on Fox 45 News at 10, more than $500,000 in overpayments to get your kids to school. Fox 45 News presses for answers. How are city schools unaware, and what's being done to prevent a repeat? Vacancies mounting at the highest levels of the mayor's office and administration. We examine why the critical positions are so hard to fill. And a new poll finds crime is the #1 issue Marylanders want addressed. The governor's pledge after admitting he fell short on some of his public safety goals.
Sunshine is the best disinfectant, and it's always good to be able to get answers.
Tonight, calls for a special investigative hearing to question the Maryland superintendent of schools. It is the latest development in an ongoing Project Baltimore investigation into test scores that were removed from the state's website and redacted after Fox 45 News began reporting the results. Here's what we know so far. In January, Project Baltimore downloaded the spreadsheet from the Maryland State Department of Education's website. It contains state test results from last school year. After Project Baltimore began reporting the results, MSDE removed the data from its website. But remember, Project Baltimore already had the data, and in February, we reported on 23 Baltimore City schools with 0 students among those tested who scored proficient in math. The story went viral. In mid-March, the state test scores were reposted online, but this time, much of the data was redacted. In the revised version, many results were replaced with asterisks, making it more difficult to see how schools were performing. MSDE said it was to protect student privacy, but the decision was apparently made without input from the state school board or Governor Wes Moore.
The fact that there is not the level of coordination between the Department of Education and the governor's office is something that needs to be fixed. It's something that needs to be addressed.
So many questions about who made the decision and when. Project Baltimore went to the state school board meeting last week to get some answers from the state school superintendent. Instead of speaking with us, though, he locked himself behind a door.
Mr. Chaudhary, Chris Papps with Fox 45. Can we ask you a couple questions about your department removing test scores from the website? Sir, your statement said that you value the media and you want to talk to the media. Sir?
Well, now the question is, who published the data originally, and why was it taken down and redacted? MSDE is blaming its web vendor for prematurely posting what it calls embargoed data before it could be fully redacted to protect student privacy. But that web vendor, the Canton Group, says that is not true. It claims MSDE posted the data itself, neither accepting responsibility for posting the state test scores in January. Now, the confusion over who knew what and when has some calling for state lawmakers to hold a hearing and question the state superintendent. Project Baltimore asked Senator Justin Reedy about this.
Do you agree?
Yes, I do. I think that would be really smart. In fact, my suggestion would be you have a hearing in the Senate with the Budget and Tax Committee and the Education, the committee that deals with education, which is called EEE. You can have a joint committee hearing. Lawmakers, policymakers need to understand what the situation is as relates to the achievements of students, where students may be struggling, what needs to be done to help.
Well, keep in mind the state is pumping billions of additional dollars into education under the Kerwin plan, while MSDE is providing less information to the public about how schools are actually performing. Project Baltimore will be staying on this story to see if lawmakers hold a hearing.
Critics say it's the latest example of the Baltimore City school system mismanaging money.
And tonight, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is digging deeper into a state investigation that uncovered more than $500,000 spent on student rides to school that never happened.
It's not just big yellow buses taking kids to and from school. Taxis are also assigned for children in foster care, experiencing homelessness, and for those living in an area with a lack of bus routes. But now, the Baltimore City school system is cutting back on cabs, following a new report from the Maryland Inspector General for Education, which claims one cab company drove off with nearly $632,000 for rides that never happened.
Where is the oversight? Where is the accountability?
Taxpayer advocate David Williams says it shouldn't take a state investigation to uncover 3 years worth of wasted funding, but he claims it's par for the course in Baltimore City.
We have seen this in the Baltimore City school system time and time again, whether it's students not graduating, whether it's ghost students, and now we have these bogus cab rides.
According to the report, Z-Trip, formerly known as Yellow Cab, potentially provided fraudulent invoices and vouchers.
There should be someone in the school system reviewing these receipts.
In a statement, Baltimore City schools say the discrepancies were, quote, primarily concentrated in the earlier years of the review period and have been mitigated by city schools' efforts to increase oversight. However, when Fox 45 sent questions to city schools asking how exactly has oversight been increased and how did the school system allow this to go on for so long, we received no response. Meanwhile, the Baltimore City Schools budget is set to balloon next year with $79 million in additional funds needed to pay the city's share of the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, also known as the Kirwan Commission commitments.
It opens up the city system to even more waste, fraud, and abuse.
Williams arguing at $21,000 per student, the school system doesn't lack funding. They lack leadership.
And it just boggles the mind why they think spending more money is going to produce better results. It hasn't.
The IG report also recommended that the school system request a refund from the cab company. It's unclear if they've done so or not. I attempted to reach out to Z-Trip this afternoon, but as of news time tonight, have not heard back. In Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock, the Surgeon General, listen to this, compares the health risk of loneliness to smoking and obesity. What we can all do that he claims is a negative influence.
And coming up at 10:30, a council committee talks about the vacant positions throughout city government. How the council president says he found out about 2 of the latest vacancies in the mayor's office.
And guess what? Here we go again. After some clouds overnight, we're going to be back to, yes, rain as we head toward tomorrow afternoon. Notice tomorrow morning's fairly dry with clouds, but there are your showers as we work into the quote-unquote heat of the day. Only 57 for our Wednesday. And rain chances continue for the rest of the week. I'm going to let you know when it's finally going to be totally dry around here and if it comes in time for the weekend in a few minutes.
Taking a look right now at the Fox box on the top left, the man accused of killing 5 of his neighbors in Texas, including a 9-year-old boy, has been arrested. The dispute reportedly started Friday when neighbors asked Francisco Oropeza to stop shooting his gun so they could get some sleep. He was found near Houston, 45 miles from the scene.
Top right, the U.S. Surgeon General issuing a warning over loneliness and health risks that could mirror smoking and obesity, which include heart disease, dementia, anxiety, even death. He points to social media as a negative factor.
The bottom left, Wisconsin Supreme Court is upholding a ruling that determined hospitals can't be forced to give patients the dewormer ivermectin to treat COVID. Conservatives hailed it as a cure, but the FDA never approved it for COVID treatment.
Bottom right, new census data shows nearly half of 2022 voters cast ballots early or by mail, an increase from previous midterms, but a drop from 2020's presidential election during the pandemic.
He turned around, started to come at me, and I shot him.
The murder of a 23-year-old man in Canton is inspiring a Baltimore business owner to share her story, how she fought off an armed robber, in a story you'll only see on Fox 45.
The former Attorney General speaks out about the federal investigation into Hunter Biden. I'm Christine Frizzell with the questions he's raising.
We're following three big stories at 10:30.
New questions about President Biden's son Hunter, his finances, and the investigations into them. The concerns from a former attorney general about how long it's all taking.
A new Inspector General report shows another example of so-called double dipping in City Hall, how one employee was apparently able to work two different city jobs for months.
A Baltimore business owner sharing her near-death experience during a robbery, hoping city leaders hear her story after a 23-year-old was killed in a robbery over the weekend.
The 22-year-old is dead because the city is uncontrollable.
We begin there. That woman tells Fox 45 News, unfortunately, she has a lot of experience with armed robberies.
Alexa Ashwell has the exclusive interview.
The Baltimore Police Department identifying the 23-year-old T-Mobile store employee who was shot and killed in this armed robbery as Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez. This case is especially troubling to a Baltimore business owner who says her shop has been robbed at gunpoint twice in the past 6 months.
In Highlandtown, here on Eastern Avenue, Jody Rossoff sits inside Doc's smoke shop.
$19.99, 30 off.
The business she's owned for more than 40 years.
Anything else?
Her mind on the 23-year-old T-Mobile employee, Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez, who police say has now died after he was shot by an armed robber inside the cell phone store in Canton this past Sunday.
2500 Boston, T-Mobile, mail shop inside of location.
A situation she found herself in just weeks ago.
I can't handle that. I'm sad for him. I'm sad for his family. The PTSD that it's bringing back to me. I can't. It's crazy.
Back in March, Rossoff's shop was robbed at gunpoint. It was the second time in 6 months. This time, the owner finding herself in a fight for her life, and it was all captured on surveillance.
My heart is beating just thinking of it.
Rossoff says a man walked into the store posing as a customer, when suddenly he pulled out a gun and demanded cash and merchandise.
About 5 minutes into the conversation, he pulls out a gun and he says, "I'll take everything." I opened the register, I pressed the hold-up alarm. I went behind the counter, but I wasn't going to bend down with a man with a gun, so I said to him, "If you want it, you take it." He came after me and we got into a scuffle. I go back to the counter here, grabbed my gun, turned around, he turned around, started to come at me, and I shot him.
Police arrested the suspect and later identified him as Jerome Owens, a convicted felon with a criminal history that spans more than 25 years, with previous arrests for robbery, theft, burglary, and drug distribution. Rossoff frustrated by the level of crime in Baltimore, but also the handling of criminals.
This is our second armed robbery in 6 months. We have been here in the city for 44 years. For 44 years, we have paid property taxes, we have paid retail sales taxes, we have employed people. Shame on the mayor, shame on, the judges and the prosecutors and our former state's attorney for letting this happen to Baltimore City.
Now, all merchandise must go. Rossoff has made the decision after more than 40 years in business here in Baltimore.
But you've been good through the years.
To close her shop.
Nobody wants to be afraid to come into their business. The 22-year-old is dead because the city is uncontrollable. Because the people, these criminals who are nothing but cowards, think that they have the right to steal from people and harm them. And they're still out there.
Rossoff says she'll be closing her shop in 2 weeks. In Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
A city council committee met tonight to talk about the vacant executive positions around the city. A number of those positions are open, including the Department of Public Works director, the head of procurement, and city fire chief. And the council questioned the human resources director and city administrator Faith Leach about hiring incentives and barriers to attracting top talent. They say the city's requirement that executives live in Baltimore is a major hurdle.
We have had several candidates that have identified the residency requirement as a barrier in recruitment. In fact, we have one agency where we've been recruiting for a bureau head for quite some time, and a person has been acting in an interim capacity, and that person would be, quite frankly, the ideal candidate for the position. But they don't want to sell their house in the county to move into the city and start over again.
Well, city leaders didn't talk about the issues facing Baltimore as the reason why candidates don't want to live in the city. But we've spoken with economists who have told Fox 45 News that crime, grime, and high property taxes are behind Baltimore's falling population. The hearing came after reports that the mayor's chief of staff and communications director left their positions. Council members say they haven't heard from the mayor's office about those positions. The council president says he learned about the vacancies through the media.
Well, the latest Goucher College poll shows crime is the biggest concern for Marylanders. Of the 800 people surveyed, 83% said reducing crime is extremely or very important. Now, despite that, lawmakers in Annapolis did little to address violent crime this session.
This year, they nipped at a few little things on crime. They passed the legislation Ivan Bates wanted. I think that next year, this is a good bat signal for Democrats to say, We need to kind of focus on a couple things and get a little focus on what to do about this issue.
Well, last week, Fox 45 News questioned Governor Wes Moore on his first 100 days in office. He admitted he fell short when it came to addressing crime and public safety.
Specifically when it comes to issues like crime and public safety, I'm not waiting for the next legislative session in order to get the work done that needs to be done.
Well, that poll also shows 53% of Marylanders approve of Governor Moore's performance 5 months into his term. 26% disapprove and 20% are undecided. The other top issues Marylanders want addressed include improving public schools, boosting the economy, and preventing childhood poverty.
A new report shows city officials have once again failed to properly monitor the city's teleworking employees. The Baltimore City Inspector General says for 8 months last year, an employee with the city was also working with city schools. That's against city policy. And according to the IG's investigation, the city wasn't aware of the dual role. That employee resigned from the city in October of last year, but not before making a combined $104,000. 2 years ago, the IG warned the city had to take a hard look at its work from home policy to avoid incidents like this. The IG addressing the lack of action today.
We're beginning to find this as a pattern in the city that we, the Office of the Inspector General, is sometimes told that things have been corrected when in reality they haven't. So we're actually in the process right now of reviewing a lot of our prior cases and determining if indeed what they told us is correct. And we will be calling out anybody that gave us false information.
Before this incident, the IG found a DPW engineer working a second job during the same hours when he was working for DPW. For this latest report, the IG is once again asking the city to address the loophole. The IG is also leaving any decisions on civil or criminal penalties up to the city.
Baltimore County Police say there's no risk to the public after a bomb threat at the Towson Place shopping center on Putty Hill Avenue this afternoon. 2 businesses were evacuated after police say they found a suspicious package. The investigation lasted a few hours. Police cleared the scene around 7 o'clock.
Lawyers for Adnan Syed say they will seek a review from the Supreme Court of Maryland. You may remember last week Syed petitioned the appellate court to reconsider its decision to reinstate his conviction. Well, today that court ruled it is refusing to do so. Syed was set free in September after serving 2 decades in prison for the murder of Haymon Lee. Former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby had moved to vacate that conviction in light of the new evidence, but courts have ruled Haymon Lee's family was not given adequate notice under victims' rights laws. Stay with Fox 45 News for continuing coverage of the case.
New questions tonight about President Biden's son, Hunter, and his finances and several investigations.
Well, some new developments may be underway in a courtroom in Arkansas as the federal probe appears to have stalled.
National correspondent Christine Frizzell reports the former Attorney General is questioning the delays.
The Justice Department's investigation into Hunter Biden's finances has entered year 5. Recent developments include a meeting between his attorneys at the DOJ, but little other movement in the case.
The investigation was ongoing when I was still there. And I, too, am puzzled why it's taken so long.
But former Attorney General Bill Barr says he can only speculate.
I don't know whether it's because of disagreement